is up, y'all? Oh, there we go. What is up, y'all? It is your boy Carnage. Welcome to my first video of my channel that is going to be solely on my tattooing journey. Now, I've done quite a bit of tattooing in the past, well, tattoo practice, should I say, in the last couple years, but I've never actually really done a video on it. I don't believe I have. I think I maybe made one, and that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But um, just to give y'all an an idea of oh no, I'm running out of face skin. Just to give y'all an idea of kind of how much I've actually practiced inconsistently, by the way. Um, how much I've actually practiced. So that's quite a bit. At least I think it's quite a bit. That's I don't know if y'all gonna pause it. I'm trying to count those, but that's how much actual tattoo practice I've actually put in. But I've never really kind of stepped in it fully to kind of get get the hard part out of the way, if that makes any sense. As far as the tattoo journey, which would be to record myself, learn from my mistakes and things like that. So just for uh-oh, I'm over here knocking stuff over. Just for informational purposes or educational purposes, should I say. I'm just letting y'all know now. I am aware of certain things that I'm not going to be doing as far as sanitation is concerned. This is just strictly for practicing my lines, learning how to shade, which line weights to use, and things like that with certain things. So it's almost be like a trial and error kind of thing because there's a lot of people who are starting to get into tattooing, some who are naturally gifted at it, and others like myself who kind of have to practice. Um, I used to draw a lot, so I kind of wanted to be a tattoo artist, but at the same time, without knowing or being educated in it, it kind of scared me off. So that's one thing I really don't want people to kind of experience. If you are interested in tattooing, the best thing I can tell you to do is to watch a video. I learned from a couple places actually, Tattooing 101 and also Art Something. They're the two channels that I mainly have watched to kind of get that comfortability in to actually be able to step foot into the tattooing realm to buy my first machine and things like that. So that's just wanted to get you guys, kind of a little info on me. I started my tattoo journey, like I said, 4 or 5, what were in, yeah, about 5 years ago. Whenever it was that COVID first hit, that's when I started my tattooing journey because everything was closed down. There was the curfew and things like that. So that's kind of where I started. My first machine, just like a lot of other people, well, at least the older people, um, was a coil machine. I didn't start off with a rotary machine. I started off with a coil machine. So I kind of had gotten accustomed to that. And then when I was kind of suggested to go to the pen style machines, which is like the rotary machines, which are a little more stable, a little more kind of predictable for the most part. I kind of never went back, but I started seeing like the coil machine started kind of trying to come back on the rise, but that's neither here nor there. So it was my first. This was like I said, this was actually maybe 4 years ago, where I actually got my first rotary style machine tattoo pen, and I've been using it to practice ever since. I've actually given myself a few tattoos, which I'm actually gonna include in a couple of pictures, down there somewhere. But it's the mummy. Oh, that light is too bright. Let's turn that off. And it's the Mummy rotary machine. I got this off of Amazon for like $150, and I have used it to give myself quite a few tattoos in the last. Well, I can't say quite a few, maybe I'm gonna say 5 or 6 tattoos I've actually done on myself. Um, and probably some of the places that I should not be doing, especially when I don't really have the capability to. And by that I mean like my forearm, my forearm, and the inside of my arm. So I've given myself quite a few tattoos because I felt comfortable enough to be able to actually experiment on myself. But once I got comfortable and realized I started seeing like my flaws and stuff, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and actually do this the right way, which would be record myself, try to figure out what's my weaknesses, which I know what my weaknesses are, but I want to actually visually see it and be able to go back and look and kind of critique myself. But I don't wanna go too far on. So right here we have the first stencil that I'm gonna use. In celebration of Stitch's first live action movie. I love Stitch. Anybody who actually knows me knows I love Stitch. I have so much Stitch stuff. And there's more to come. But I love Stitch, so this is gonna be the first tattoo. I know it's a little I put too much stencil stuff on, but this is gonna be the first stencil that we use. I wait it till it's dry. I'm actually gonna make sure I kind of clean it off a little bit, and then we're also going to be using the Poseidon tattoo needle cartridges. They come in a couple different ways: round liners, round shaders, round mags, and then of course you have the regular flat mags. I call them flat mags, but it's the mag cartridges that don't have the rounded edge. They're just regular mags. And like I said, we'll be using my mummy tattoo machine. I find working at about six, maybe 6.5 volts for my line work usually kind of gets the job done. But I want to see if maybe in the future I can probably boost it up to about 7, kind of speed my hand movement a little bit. Just hopefully that can actually work. But for right now, I'm gonna stick to about 6.5. So if you guys are new to tattooing, if you guys found my video or found my channel from, looking it up, tattooing, things like that, if it did pop up in the algorithm, make sure you guys hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're new to tattooing, if you're kind of trying to do the same thing that I'm doing, let's go ahead and go on this journey together. And if you're an experienced tattoo artist, if you're a veteran, please respectfully don't hesitate to leave me the content in the comments. Leave me any critiques or advice that you guys would suggest that I could do better, something that I could probably change a little bit. But for the most part, I feel like I kind of have the basics down. So the tattoo ink we're going to be using today is going to be, the OG, the dynamic black, just a regular dynamic black. I've been using this same. I recently got new, like a fresh bottle that I haven't used yet because I planned on giving myself a tattoo, but I never did it. That's the ink I'm gonna use. But this ink here is just gonna be just for practice uses only. Like I said, sanitation wise, I've cleaned everything. I wiped my machine down. Everything's pretty wiped down with alcohol and sterilized. I just don't have any wraps and things like that. But I do have the majority of the things that we kind of do need. Um, Cartridges, of course. We have the ink. We have the fake skin. We have the actual utensil. We have lubricant. Like to use Vaseline. I usually like to kind of keep it in these little cups. And I usually kind of keep some on top of my hand. We have the ink caps itself. I don't know what size these are. Um, so don't hate me in the comments, please. um, yeah. So we kind of just start off. I usually use this little because I don't have a big work area as y'all can see, but I plan on kind of expanding it a little more. But I kind of just use this little canvas as like my little tattooing board. Um, Paper underneath it. You usually want to keep maybe one or two pieces underneath it. It'll help absorb quite a bit of the vibrations when it comes from the machine itself, as well as the needle kind of entering into the fake skin. I kind of learned that, uh, not the hard way, but I definitely did kind of learn that as I was progressing. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is kind of clean off some of this excess stencil. So basically, what we're gonna do, hopefully, this comes out the way, because I normally don't do it this way. I kind of just wait for it to completely dry out, and then the lines kind of don't normally look like this. So, like I said, I put a little too much stencil stuff on there. I'm gonna lubricate it a wee bit. Hopefully, that's enough, and then we're just gonna kind of wipe this away. And the stencil should still be there, which it is. Just a little tinted blue. Put a little bit more. All right, and there we go. It's kind of hard to see because it is pretty light. Um, but hopefully I don't mess this up. Like I said, this is kind of the first time I've actually done it this way. Like I said, I normally just kind of let it sit. Um, and also I'm not using any gray wash technique, so I'm not diluting my black ink. Um, so we're gonna go ahead and try to get started. I'm gonna kind of turn this light on a little bit because I do have a light on my. There we go. So I just want to kind of get started. So normally in the tattoo business, they usually tell you whichever your dominant hand is that you're tattooing with, you usually start from the lower part of that side. So I'm normally dominantly right-handed, so I'm gonna start from the bottom right-hand side. So that's usually what I do. So don't judge me. A lot of people kind of, depending on the tattoo itself, I guess I've seen some people kind of work their way from the top down and then top down and then work their way over so that way they're not really smudging off the tattoo stencil itself. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not confident enough into myself to be able to do that. So we're gonna start bottom left, bottom right. I'm sorry, and then also I want to kind of acknowledge the needles that I'm gonna use. So I feel like I need to start learning how to dictate which line weights to use. So normally I know for like thicker lines like this, I want to try and use a a round shader. So I want to go maybe with like I want to see a seven. I want to see like a seven round shader. So we're gonna go there. We're gonna start there, and that's gonna be just for the very thick outlines itself. So like the ears, the outline of the hands, basically everything outside. Well, I guess I can kind of use it on here too, like the nose. And then yeah, so we're gonna use a seven round shader, and as far as like the smaller pieces, like right here on the stomach, the inside of the foot, and the lines with the pupils and the little scruffy little part there, we're gonna use probably like a five round liner. Again, I'm just kind of trying to dictate and trial and error. So if I'm wrong, you know, let me make my mistakes, But like I said, if you guys have a different line weight that you would normally use for tattooing, like certain line weight, like certain lines like this, let me know in the comments, and then I can kind of experiment and see how that will work for me. Again, every tattoo is different. They have different ways of tattooing certain things or using different line weights, but the actual process differs, but the outcome usually kind of is the same, if that makes any sense. Like the lines are supposed to come out crispy, they're supposed to come out solid, they're supposed to come out saturated, but the initial start is usually different. It differs from tattoo artist to tattoo artist. Like for example, when it comes to pulling or pushing lines, I'm more of a puller rather than a pusher because I realize my hands are not steady enough or don't have that steadiness to be able to actually push the lines. So right now I am looking for the actual 15 round mag, 5 round shader, 7 round mag, 7 round shader. All right. Damn it. And then 7 round liner, 9 round shader, 9 round liner. Nine-round liner, 9 round shader, 7 round liner, 7 round shader, 5 round liner. Alrighty, so we got both of our cartridges here. Like I said, these are the Poseidon tattoo cartridges. I don't know if you can kind of see that. Poseidon tattoo cartridges. So we got the 7 round shader, and then we also have a 5 round liner. I wasn't sure if I should have went with the 9 round shader, but you guys think I should go with the 9 round shader? I think I'm gonna do the 9 round shader. You guys convinced me. So I'm gonna do the 9 round shader instead of the 7. I feel like it's definitely gonna give me a bolder line. Now, there is one thing with the shaders that I recognized is that with because they're so spaced out and they don't have like that point, they don't kind of meet together, they kind of stay spaced. They tend to create, you can see the individual lines, at least, excuse me, on the fake skin. So you can see the individual lines when it comes to the different shaders. So you can kind of, I don't know if you can kind of, my camera's not that good, so we're not going to sit here and even worry about that. But yeah, so we're going to use the 9 round shader, as you can see. And I usually, like I said, run between 6 and 6.5. So we got the machine set to 6.5 right now. So I want to kind of get myself set up for the actual application. So I'm gonna go ahead and dab some Vaseline on my top of my tattooing hand, which I probably should have done the other side. But again, trial and error, learning different ways on how the certain processes are supposed to go, or how certain processes go from tattoo artist to tattoo artist. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're gonna start from this bottom right part right here, and I like to just dip the ink or dip the cartridge in the ink first, and then turn the machine on, so that way you don't get a lot of a lot of backsplash. And I normally kind of like to keep my needles out about that far. It's kind of hard to see, but here we go. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So make sure you guys hit that like button if and subscribe if you're on the same journey I am. If you're into tattooing, or even if you just like Stitch. If you like Stitch, you can go ahead and hit that button too. And I just realized I got like the little tropical shirt on my tropical shirt on. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna kind of work my way from the tip of this toe right here, kind of all the way down here, because I don't wanna overdo. I need to find. Also, before I even get started, another piece of advice I re- highly recommend is to get you like a little headlamp. So you can literally buy these pretty much anywhere, Walmart, Amazon, things like that. You know, get them wherever you feel like you want to get them from. I recommend these because there be certain times where, for example, if I'm about to do this line right here, it's being covered by shadow and you can't really see. So you'll have this extra light to be able to kind of put on top, and you'll be able to actually see exactly what it is that you're doing, even though without it, it's in the shadow. That kind of makes sense. So let's go ahead and get started, y'all. And you want to give the needle time to actually go in. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can see the individual lines in the actual tattoo stencil itself. That was a janky line. That wasn't smooth at all. There we go. So that looks a little better. That looks a little bit better. And I usually like to dab. I'm normally not like a white person until I actually get the section done. But we're gonna go ahead and wipe anyway. Edit it. Have enough. We're gonna go ahead and wipe anyway and see if that ink holds. Yeah, we're good. So we're gonna go ahead and keep going. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's definitely prominent individual lines inside of the actual stencil itself. Because, like I said, the shaders are more spaced out than the liners are, so you're not gonna get that one solid line because of the needle setup. And I would have used different needles, but I'm only using what I have. And also one thing I just realized, when it comes to the 9 round shaders, especially the bigger grouping needles, you always want to kind of put a little more pressure in, because by it being so spread out over a bigger area versus it kind of being concentrated, you're gonna have to put in a little more oomph as far as when to put the needle in to actually insert the needle. Because if you don't, you can actually see the difference. This little line right here is actually a lot more solid than the one I did originally. So I'm gonna probably end up going back and doing those later on in the video once I kind of get situated and finished, at least with this one part. So I'm gonna probably speed this process up a little bit because uh, I'm not really a big talking person, and I do bad with instructionals. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up at least till I get to about the to his ear, and then I'll kind of go back and backtrack and let you guys know what's going on. Another thing that is important that I also realized, again, a lot of this stuff is kind of things that I've realized on my own, just based off of my trial and error with the amount of products that I've used and messed up and kind of gone through. A lot of things that are important is angle, hand speed, voltage. Those are the three, I would say, the holy trinity. So you got the angle that you hold the tattoo needle in, because if you're holding it at an angle, I think, believe more than 45 degrees, especially when it comes to bigger grouping needles or the mags, you're not going to get every single needle to actually penetrate. So you're going to have inconsistencies with your lines. So you want to have your tattoo needle 45 degrees or straight up and down. Depends on comfortability, what angle you're working on, and things like that. So just make sure you guys keep that in mind, because I definitely didn't when I started. All right. So also there's this thing called feathering. So to kind of help you have smooth and like consistent lines, a lot of people, especially when you're pulling a long line, you never want to be able to just pull a line and let's say you stop. Let's say you stop. You start from here and you go and you stop here. So especially with the round shaders, you never want to just start from where you ended on that first line. You want to feather in. So basically what that means is you want to start from a point that's right behind where you started. So let's say, for example, I stopped right here. Let's say I stopped right there. You want to start maybe like a half an inch behind that, and you want to feather in. So basically, what that means is you start to insert the needle, you go towards the part where you ended, and you fully insert, and that'll give you, well, not there, but that will give you the consistency of it seeming like it's one straight line, one singular line, versus you stopping, like you pull in a line and then you stop, right? And then if you try to go back in, you can kind of see this little area right here. You probably can't, but there's a little area right here where it looks like a little ball. And you can also see, like I said, angle plays a part. So you have thick lines and then it thins out right there. Angle plays a very big part in tattooing. So I usually recommend with round shaders, so you do it straight up and down. So that way you can actually get every single needle for the most part. Like I said, yeah, I'm learning. I'm still kind of getting used to certain ways of tattooing. So don't be too harsh on me in the comments saying, "Oh, you suck. You should give up tattooing." Listen, I did that. I did that. All right, so that's pretty much. I think that's pretty much it for the bold parts of the tattoo. I could be wrong, but I just kind of not really feeling comfortable with the 9 round shader. So I did basically majority of. Sorry, I was trying to clean off my the cartridge, but that's pretty much the majority of the bold outlines of the actual tattoo itself. And now I have to switch needles. So normally, just for practice purposes, normally what I do is I kind of, well, I don't have any tape here, but you normally want to kind of tape um, the cartridges, or you want to flip them to where you can have it sitting like this. Oh, probably can't see it. You want to have it kind of sitting like this at an angle, and you want to have some type of solution like alcohol or green soap or whatever it is in there. I prefer alcohol, but I don't have any tape right now. So all I'm going to do is just spray a little bit in here, and then Move it to the side. I do not recommend doing that, but for lack of resources that I have right now, that's kind of what I want to do. Just so I can kind of keep, just kind of keep that needle semi clean, I guess you want to say. Just keep it to where it won't bog, it won't get clogged and things like that. It'll actually be able to focus, focus, focus. I said focus right now. There we go. So it doesn't bog, it doesn't kind of give out during the middle of the tattoo session. It just kind of it kind of helps it out a little bit. So now we're switching to the 5 round liner by Poseidon. And I did get these off of Amazon. I actually bought 2 boxes. They come with round liners, they come with round shaders, they come with curved mags, and they also come with the regular standard mag. I don't even know what you would even call that. There's so many different names for it. But normally, especially with the round liners, I normally only keep it out about that far. Sometimes a little shorter. Yeah, so about that far is normally how far I keep out my needle focus. So it's not terribly too far, but it's definitely far enough to where I can get the things done that I need to get done in one pass. So now we're gonna start doing everything on the inside. So a lot of these, especially like the eyes, and then they have like a little shadow piece right here, like the kind that you want to fill in with like a mag or something. We're just gonna outline that, and then we're gonna go back later and fill it in. I'm telling y'all now, it's probably not gonna look the best. Because I did use a needle I normally don't use, or a needle type I don't use. I normally don't use 9 round shaders. I usually use a bigger grouping of nine of liners. So 11 round liner, 9 round liner, things like that. So, but we're gonna start like we did from the beginning, from the bottom right part of the tattoo, and we're gonna work our way up, and hopefully we can actually follow this up. So bottom right, top right, to the left, and then bottom left. So let's go ahead and get started. And now, one thing I will say about these liners, depending on the smaller the grouping the liners that you have, um, the less pressure you have to put in. So normally with the round shaders or the mags, you have to put a little bit more oomph into it. But with the liners, because the points are so condensed and they kind of meet together to create a point, you don't have to put much pressure into it because it's gonna kind of penetrate the skin or the fake skin relatively easily. And also by not putting too much pressure on actual liners, you kind of avoid having a blowout. So right now, I'm doing pretty good. Right here, this point right here would actually be considered a blowout. So you don't want to put too much pressure on the liners because like I said, you can cause a blowout. You can cause like severe damage to your client's skin. You can tear through your actual fake skin, or if you're tattooing yourself, you can cause harm to yourself as well. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you guys are taking your time learning the skin, kind of knowing when to pull the line, when the needle's actually set in, in order for you to actually pull the line. So you don't want to try to pull the line and then it not set in, because the minute that you do that, let me try to show you. So I did like a little flimsy line there. If I were to sit here and put some lubricant on it and wipe it away, you can see it's barely there. So you want to give it time to actually set in and then pull the line. That way, when you put some lubricant on it and you wipe it away, it's a solid line. So keep that in mind. That's something I also had to learn um, the hard way. And also, I know this is a lot of things. I just want to help everybody out, because a lot of these things that I'm kind of telling you guys is stuff that I've actually kind of experienced and kind of went through trial and error with. Smaller needle groupings, specifically the round liners, will show more wobbles and mistakes than a thicker, like a 7 or a 9 or 11, etc., etc. Smaller needle groups show more flaws, bigger needle groups are a little more giving. So by that, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I mean. So if you look, it's kind of hard to see because my camera angle, but you can kind of see a wobble from here to here, and that's because the lines are not very forgiving when it comes to pulling lines with the smaller needle groups. The bigger ones, you can, like I said, you can kind of get away with. Make sure you always have a cap full of needle of ink. That one wasn't too bad. I'm actually proud of myself for that one, because normally, especially when it comes to lines, I feel like I don't care how much experience you have in the tattoo industry, you are going to have issues with lines. I don't care what nobody says. You're going to have issues with lines. It's just a given. It's going to happen. So don't try to be too hard on yourself, because, like I said, it's going to happen. It's just one of those things where you just kind of have to learn how to control it. And All right, y'all. Actually, no. All right, y'all. So that's pretty much part one of this tattoo. Reason why I say part one because I do want to come back and visit this tattoo at a different time and actually do some shading to it. It's like shading here, shading these in, kind of getting some shading in the middle. So I'm gonna clean this up a little bit, and hopefully, if I've actually used these needles right, at least the 9 round shaders. If I used it right, it'll actually come out pretty nice. So hopefully these lines stay saturated, they stay clean, um, and we'll see. So I'll be right back with you guys. All right, y'all. So here is the finished product. It does look a little janky. I'm not gonna lie. It does look a little janky, but again, that's only because one, I was using the needle I normally don't use. Two, I have a small workspace, so I'm kind of working with what I got here, but I plan on making a little more room. If not, getting a whole separate desk so I can actually have it set up. But this is pretty much what it looks like for right now. This is definitely not my best. There's definitely some things I need to change. I used a liner that was too small for the eyes. You got this little janky little piece here, and the little fingies looked a little weird. But that's on, like, again, the stencil was a little blurred out, so you always want to make sure you have a crisp stencil before you start to tattoo. Otherwise, you can start making mistakes. You can start missing things, misjudging a certain stencil piece, and it be completely wrong. So just make sure you guys are being very attentive and not doing what I did and just kind of going based off of whatever I felt like doing. Not really, but yeah, this is the piece. This is, like I said, part one. Trial and error. I kind of embarrassed myself. I'm not even gonna lie. This is terrible. This is terrible, but I am my biggest critic, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people out there are your biggest critic as well. Well, you are your own biggest critic, so don't try to be too hard on yourself. I know either easier said than done, but try not to be so hard on yourself, especially if you're just beginning. If this is something that you've never done before, if you have no type of artistic background, you don't need an art background, period, in order to start tattooing. As long as you can learn to adapt, you retain knowledge very well, and you know how to overcome obstacles, you can be a tattoo artist. You can be whatever it is that you want to be, except a Stitch, because nobody can be Stitch but Stitch. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see a little bit more of like the practice stuff that I have done, I will leave a link down for my Instagram. I'm trying to build my social media up. So I do have an Instagram that has strictly tattooing stuff on it, and I'm also trying to transfer some of that stuff over to TikTok. It's gonna be a lot because I have to do. It's gonna be a lot. This is something I'm putting on myself because I want to be able to make this into something that I can call a career or a side career or whatever it is I decide to do in the future. But I want this to be one type of aspect in my career. So just keep that in mind. Don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody starts from somewhere, and everybody's gonna end up finishing, whether it's now or later, a couple years from later, or a couple of years from now. I can't speak. I need to eat. That's what this is. I am not. I have not been fed. Also, another thing for you vapors, including myself, if you plan on vaping, or if you vape often, take at least 1 hour out of your day when you're going to tattoo, and do not vape. No coffee, no vaping. Your hands will start to shake, and you will start to see very inconsistent lines. You'll see line wobbles. You'll see needle depth being inconsistent. So even just for an hour of you practicing a tattoo, something as simple as this, or something across, or whatever it is, try to eliminate that. And you want to be able to have a steady hand the entire time. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like the tattoo, or if you did like what you seen, if you like the tips, if you like the advice, please make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, which I'm pretty sure everybody here will be because it's not even up yet, this will be the first video. But make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell notification so that way you're notified of all my future videos. If you guys want to see me do a certain type of stencil or a certain type of tattoo practice, or practice tattoo, let me know in the comments. I'm not that good, so a lot of things like heavy detailed work, I'm not that far with, skill wise and patience wise, because this it does take some patience. And I'm also still trying to learn how to use certain line weights, so y'all got to keep that in mind. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this can be a series kind of thing. Hopefully I can kind of help inspire other people, because it took me 9 years, a lot, 8 years. It took me 8 years to finally put my foot in the door to actually start tattooing. I've wanted to do this since what, I'm gonna say 2016. 2016 is when I first wanted to do this, but I was so scared because I was scared because of what I didn't know, if that makes any sense. We're always afraid of the unknown. Once we kind of know things, we start to get a little more confident. We start to get the little boost, and we kind of start to gradually get more comfortable in whatever it is that we're doing. So just keep that in mind. Look up some things, be informed, and once you have that information, I feel like a lot of us can prosper and grow and gradually get to a point to where we can say, yes, I made it. This is where I started from, and this is where I am now. Look at the progress. But thank you guys so much. Love y'all, and see y'all in the next video. Peace.